well. Morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
How are you? It's spring. Cheer up, guys. This is the same issue we've been talking about for months and months about trying to secure this building. There's a right way to do it, and there's a halfway, which is not a good option, and do nothing. We have illustrated what we think is the right way to do it to keep you safe and to make sure this building's secure. We believe that putting officers downstairs with a scanner and checking people in when they come and go, just like they do at the baseball games and at the courthouse and everywhere else, is the most secure way to do it. This morning, John Lafferty, our major over court security, did an emergency test. To get somebody over here took 4.5 minutes. Now, if you have ever been involved in a physical altercation or a problem, 4.5 minutes is a lifetime. I've been there. It's not fun. It's unacceptable. And that was because we didn't have enough officers at our front lobby. So we have to find out. He did it out of the blue. It was just an emergency test. It's not acceptable. It's too long. I don't know what else I can say except every expert around has told you how to do this right. It is the right thing to do to protect this building. If somebody comes in with a firearm, if we're not screening, all we can do is respond. And I just want you to think how many times you can shoot in 4.5 minutes. It's not an acceptable outcome. So I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Well, I don't have a question, Sheriff. Having reviewed the briefing sheet and having been in previous conversations, I do have a concern about committing almost $600,000 a year forward every year for 6 people, 6 staff people. And I'm not there yet on that part of it. Looking at the briefing sheet, there were some alternatives. I really don't have a problem with the alternative of increasing the safety of those departments that you indicated. Some of our activities, folks can come in and there's a counter, and I don't have any problem with that. I would be interested in further discussion about not 6, but maybe a couple of officers that could be assigned to this building with various activities. But that's my position at this time. Ms. O'Hara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the city of Olathe, what security do they have?
They have police officers stand by, but they don't have 610,000 residents and 4,000 employees.
Okay, and Overland Park, what security the city?
Overland Park, I think, hires private security.
Pardon?
I think they hire private security.
But there's no screening,
No, not that I know of.
right? What about Sedgwick County? Do you know what they've done?
Sedgwick County has everything in their courthouse, and they have a complete
Okay,
police
so
department.
that's in the
to take
court.
care of
That's in the courthouse.
But they are moving out of the courthouse.
And they will have, they've got their own
Yeah.
security police department to take care of it.
I agree with the chairman that $600,000 a year. What does that equate as far as a mill levy on the property taxes? I would like that information. And there are so few people in this building. I mean, the only day that the people really are here is on commission meeting days. Since COVID, there's so many people that's working remotely. I just can't see the investment because we're part of the community. This is a problem that is everywhere. I mean, it can happen anywhere. It happened at Olathe East. I mean, they're not screening. The high schools aren't screening.
And 3 people got shot.
I realize that, but it's like, this is a huge, I mean, that's $6 million in 10 years. All right, those are my comments.
To your question, 1 mil equals about $13.2 million. Mr. Ashcraft, did you have?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, the 6 positions you're asking for, I understand that, but you're talking about certain improvements. Now, are these improvements contingent upon the 6 positions, or are they independent of the 6 positions, or is it kind of a mix? I think the lobby area probably is contingent upon putting in magnometers or whatever you call those things, but the others, are those independent of the 6 positions?
Tom Dugan. It's kind of broken out at the bottom. So the 60,000 that is down there for improvements at the east entry, those would be contingent upon doing screening, and you're only going to be doing the screening with the larger number of deputies. The other 2 listed above that, the secure lobby in the legal department, and then the BOCC county management offices, those are, you know, you could plug those into any combination of what you wanted to do.
Okay, and those expenses would be facility expenses, I suppose, rather than actually sheriff expenses. Is that right, Mr. Waters? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I also have some of the same concerns with the large expenditure, but looking at the alternatives, I didn't know if you were leaning towards or looking at strongly at the third alternative, which provided 2 blue coat positions along with the structural security improvements.
Well, if you're asking me that question, that's a possibility. I think, my own opinion is the first step is to modify the office entrances.
I agree with that.
And then second step would be to evaluate additional personnel.
I have similar thoughts. I think the structural improvements are important. I don't know that. Again, I'm willing to listen to additional blue coat positions as provided in alternative 3. But again, I have some real problems with the total amount of, like we said, $564,000 plus dollars on this item. I just struggle with that.
Okay. Ms. Hansley.
Yes, thank you. I have to say I agree with the comments that have been said so far, and especially appreciate Commissioner O'Hara's comments. A couple of questions that I have is, in terms of the entire county facilities, where does this building stand in terms of the need for security? Obviously during the past couple of years, we've had a lot more visitors on Thursdays than we usually do. Hopefully, we are past that. But on a regular basis, which buildings have the most public coming in and out of them? And then secondly, what areas in this building are not already locked? I know that all the offices along here are locked, the HR is locked. And is that something we can look at to do more of those kinds of more passive security than having someone with a gun at the door making people go through the magnetometer?
The answer to your question, Commissioner, is you have 92 buildings in Johnson County. This is the most dangerous building that has been assessed by anyone, including our security director, who's a Secret Service guy. This is not a matter of if, just like the schools, it's a matter of when. And when you talk about value, what are our employees worth? Place a value on that. And I got concerns that if I put a blue coat in this building, they're at risk. If you're going to cut it down to 2, I'd put 2 uniformed, fully equipped young officers in here. And they're still going to have a delayed response. What do you think is an acceptable loss? This is the most at-risk building because of HR, and you are conspicuous representatives of government. This is where the bad actors will come. And as far as this building was wide open for years. With the recent stuff going on, Dave came in, Dave Studheit, and recommended that it be locked up and have one entrance. We've done that. But it still doesn't prevent somebody from coming in with a gun. It just doesn't. I mean, there's just no way to stop that. And one of the pluses is we already have the equipment. We have the equipment from the old courthouse, so it's still viable and still works. And we're doing blue coats, which are less expensive than uniform deputies.
Okay, Commissioner Allenbrand, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments. I struggle with the dollar amount as well. But it's my understanding that part of the school bond, violate the school, that they are looking at putting metal detectors in because of what happened. No?
No, I don't.
Okay, I thought they were at a lake, but anyway, outside of that, I'm struggling with the cost, but also I understand the risk, because being in and out of this building, you know, during the week, I see a lot of activity going on, from voting to the downstairs area of different, you know, people moving in and out, and I do have concerns for the staff, so I'm just wondering if we could relook at it again, and the cost factor.
Okay, all right, Ms. O'Hara?
The traffic at the northeast building has to be far greater than the traffic here. Is that correct?
It is, but there's also security up there.
And what security do we have?
We've got a
up there?
private security company for mental health.
Could staff give me some information on that before next week, please?
I don't know, but mental health, public health, and motor vehicles
Right.
located at that facility. And
So there's a lot of
there
traffic.
should be
in
a
that building.
large volume of traffic.
Right.
Well, this is agenda review. I would suggest that commissioners look at the alternatives that have been presented on the briefing sheet, and we will have additional time for discussion next week. Commissioner Fast, did you have any comment? No. All right, thank you. Well, this will remain on action. Thank you all very much. Next item.
Item number 4, consider authorizing the Facilities Management Department to add 2.0 full-time equivalent FTE ground specialist 2 positions for FY 2022 at a cost of approximately $133,000 to be fully funded by a reduction of contracted services in the amount of $155,000.
Yes. Mr. Waters.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Waters, Assistant County Manager and Interim Director of Facilities. This is a request for 2 FTEs, 2 full-time equivalent positions, to rebalance the work that is being contracted out for grounds versus that's being done in-house. And the cost of this will be covered by the savings in the current approach in which that work is contracted out. So in 2019, a little background on this, in 2019, the Facilities Department contracted out a pretty significant piece of their work. They've always contracted some grounds work and blended that with what they do internally. In 2019, they took a significant shift there, having done the financial analysis, and gave up 3 FTEs at that time to fund to provide the dollars to outsource a large piece of work. What they have done now with the addition of several new buildings, let's see, the household hazardous waste facility that is now just closed on that this past week. So that's property, new property back into the county's area of responsibilities. A couple of MedAct facilities as well. You see the new Lenexa station there on the briefing sheet, as well as Station 31. So there's additional properties coming online. And the county square as well. You can say, well, we always had the county square, but the staff that took care of that space around the courthouse and around the courthouse are now doing that around the new courthouse site. So there's a net add of property there for care. So when the department looks at their strengths, the areas they do really well and most cost effectively, and in the background, you see a little bit about this. The labor-intensive portions, the areas, are buildings that have a lot of detailed care around our libraries and that sort of thing, that facilities can do those more efficiently, and that's why they can pull back some of this work, take that on in-house, bring back 2 positions, not the 3 that they gave up before, still contract out quite a bit of the work, but have a net savings in this new reblending of their services after 3 years of contracting out at a certain level.
Okay, so Mr. Waters, the suggestion is that this be done cheaper and more efficiently and effectively rather than contracting out?
Yes, these pieces of work.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've railed about the concept of managed competition, balancing what is most cost-effective in terms of staff doing it versus contractors doing or contracting it out. I commend Mr. I almost said Reinhardt, but maybe I should.
You can.
I'll commend Mr. Waters and his predecessor for looking at this. Conceptually, I'm very supportive of it. I would, just for my own edification before next week, if you could teach me a little bit about the thought process and the analysis you did, I would appreciate that, but I am supportive of it.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Action?
Could this go on consent?
That's fine. All right, so noted. This will go on consent.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 5, request for proposal RFP 2018-077. Consider authorizing an increase in contract authority with Waste Management in the amount of $175,000 for countywide waste collection, disposal, and recycling services for a 1-year term with 2 additional 1-year renewals remaining.
Ms. Lyons.
Good morning, Chairman Eilert and Commissioners. Robin Lyons, Purchasing Manager. So background on the item before you, May 30th of 2019, the Board of County Commission approved a 1-year term and supply contract with Waste Management for trash and recycle services in the amount of $130,000 with the option to renew 4 additional 1-year terms. Previous to this contract, departments were contracting individually with multiple haulers. Price increases were not requested for the first renewal. However, for the second renewal, with the increase in fuel and labor market challenges, a 24% increase has been requested by Waste Management. Staff is requesting a $45,000 increase to the contract authority for a total contract amount not to exceed $175,000 annually to accommodate for the 24% increase and anticipated future increase in fuel surcharges. Just historically, the contract spend for this excludes wastewater. The first year of the contract, the county spent $108,000 of the $130,000 that we requested. The second year, approximately $122,000. Keep in mind, during the pandemic, the buildings were less occupied. Purchasing Policy 110-145 allows the purchasing manager the authority to renew term and supply contracts up to 110% of the contract value annually. Since this increase exceeds 10%, this item is being brought before the board. As if you'll recall, wastewater recently brought a similar item to the board for the removal of sludge, grit, and rags. With that, I stand for questions.
Is this a forerunner for customers of Waste Management, do we suppose?
I can't speculate.
Okay, questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lyons, I appreciate the approach and the discussion, but I have some kind of, I need a better understanding in terms of the overall cost benefit, particularly in terms of the options related to why we may or may not want to have bid this out again since there was such an escalation.
Okay.
Other questions? Ms. O'Hara?
I just concur with Commissioner Ashcraft questioning why we didn't put this out for bid again since it was such a big increase.
Okay, well, this will remain on action, so are there any other items?
No, sir.
All right, that concludes our agenda review. Thank you all very much. Our study session will begin at 11:15 in room 200 in the lower level. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.